Soil. So weathering is the breaking down of parent rocks into a much smaller rocks or smaller rock fragments. And with the help of water and wind, the smaller rock fragments will be eroded or will undergo a process of erosion. That is how soil is formed. Smaller rock fragments are broken down through the process called weathering. And in the type of weathering that is called a physical weathering, this will produce the type of fragments called sand and silt. So sand is about smaller than 2 millimeters, and silt is much smaller, which is about 0.05 millimeters. Whereas the chemical weathering will also produce a much smaller grain that is about 0.002 millimeters, and that is clay. So basically, our soil is made up of these three types of materials, and they are the product of weathering. So this is the soil texture pyramid. In this structure of the chart, you can follow the three different types of components of a soil. And for example, if you have 40% of our slit, so this is the 40% line of the slit. At the same time, you will have about, let's say, 30% of sand and 30% of clay, then you will have a combination of a perfect combination for a clay loam soil, which is very good for planting. So in this type of soil texture pyramid, you can actually be able to determine the different percentage of slit, sand and clay with the different components or texture of our soil, whether that is clay, and another one is silty clay or silty clay loam, and so on and so forth. So this chart is very helpful to determine the different textures of our soil. So again, soil is made up of sand, silt, and clay. So basically, the different combinations of these three elements of the soil is what makes our soil in our environment. So although they are not in always in a constant proportion, but differs in different areas. So we will be talking about that in the next slide. So for example, for sand is not ideal for planting, although it allows the roots of the plants to penetrate into the soil easily, but it's not ideal to hold water. So that's why sand is not very good for most of the plants. Whereas for clay, this is very good material to hold water. However, it will be giving difficulty for most of the plants or plant roots to penetrate into the ground. That's why a good combination between the three elements or the three components of the soil should be balanced for different types of plants and vegetation. So again, the three make up soil. And talking about soil have layers as you dig the ground, and you will see that these layers are in different levels or strata, and we call this the soil horizon. Whereas soil is also dependent on the soil formation factors, because these factors will determine the different soil order. So basically, our soil are organized or are classified into soil orders, which we will also be discussing later on. So this is our soil horizon. So for example, if you are going to get a block of soil from the top to the bedrock, you will find that there will be different layers of the rock So we call that layer stratum or strata, and we will label them with different labels such as O, A, B, C, and R. And sometimes between A and B there is E, which I will just explain that to you later. And all these levels or strata is called a horizon. So for the O horizon, actually this is where the materials like the grass, the organic matters will decompose, and eventually they will be brought down to the A horizon. So when the soil and the decomposing matter will be mixed, the color of the soil will be black. All right. So the decomposing soil and the decomposing material such as the organic matter together with the soil, we will call that as humus. And this organic matter that has turned into humus again is color black because of the decomposition, and this is going to provide the vital nutrients for the plants that will grow on the soil. So this is again the A horizon. Now, as I mentioned that usually there is also not usually but sometimes there is another horizon between A and B, and we call that the E horizon, although it is not presented in here. But E horizon is when all of the roots of the plants will be consuming all the nutrients, so that horizon will be already be lacking of nutrients and organic matter. So instead, the color of that horizon is no longer black but rather grayish, because as I have said that it is already lacking of the organic matter, so the decomposed organic matter. All right, so typically this horizon is the balance of all those three elements that comprises a soil. So you can find there the clay, the what else, we have the silt, and we also have the sand. So the different compositions of the three can be clearly seen in the E horizon because there is a less amount of organic matter. Now we will be moving on to the B horizon, and so actually it is the B horizon that where a root of a plant can reach the farthest. Okay, so this is also called the subsoil. So now the B horizon is generally, because it is coming from the C horizon, because the C horizon there is actually full of minerals, and so the B horizon is actually very high in minerals such as we have silica, of course, because of the bedrock, and some aluminum maybe, and gypsum, and the rest of the minerals that are present in this horizon. So after that we will be moving on to the C horizon. So the C horizon actually is basically the last layer of our soil, and because this is the horizon where the parent rock is starting to decompose and become or decompose into soil. So this is the soil formation area of our rock, and below that is actually the R that stands for rock or the bedrock. So basically the bedrock is the foundation of all the soil horizon that we can find in this planet. So that's for our soil horizon. So these are the different soil formation factors that help in creating soil. One is time, another one is parent material or the bedrock, and another one is the relief or the elevation or topography, and the other one is organism, That's the vegetation, the animals, the bacteria, fungi, everything. And the other one is climate, rainfall, temperature, and humidity. So let's first go to the one factor called time. So soil is not made overnight, and it requires thousands of years to create soil by the process of weathering. So especially if the type of material is a little bit difficult to disintegrate, so it requires more time to do that. So that's the first factor of making soil, and that is time. And for parent material, so the physical and chemical characteristics of that parent material or the bedrock can be the one that is considered also in the uh, creation of our soil. So it will have the physical and the chemical characteristic of its parent material. An example to this is, for example, rock is very high in iron content that is exposed to the chemical weathering called oxidation. So basically the rock is reddish in color, and so when that disintegrate into soil, so later on the soil will have the characteristics of a color red material. So next, we also have the relief or the elevation on the topography of the environment. For example, if the soil is along the cliff, so basically this is where the water will be running into, and so you see that water has also something to do with the decomposition of our rock that can turn later on into soil. So that is so important to understand, so that you will know how a specific type of relief can contribute to the creation of soil, whether it helps in making the soil faster. So another type of factor is what we call the organism. So as I have said, that this includes the plants, the kind of plants that grows into the environment. So it can actually create more soil. For example, if we have the physical type of weathering, which is called the wedging, so plant roots actually can help break those rocks into more finer rocks and making them into a component of the soil. So for example, we also have burrowing animals, including the worms. So they will create more holes into the soil or bedrock, and basically when there are holes in there, it allows air and water to penetrate further and reach into the bedrock, and it will help also in the creation of soil. And maybe human activities such as drainage, agriculture, the kind of fertilizer, acidification into the soil will also enhance in the creation of soil. So organisms, including humans, is one factor that really can affect soil formation. And the last one of the five is climate. So that includes rainfall, temperature, humidity. So these are the different factors that affects weathering. So as you see that weathering is a geological process of exposing our rock into the environment. So when this happens, rainfall can dissolve some rocks, and temperature like freezing and thawing can also help in creating more rock particles and converting them into soil, and humidity can also affect the decomposition of some rocks. So again, these are the five factors that helps in the creation of our soil. So these are the 12 soil orders, and when we speak of soil orders, these are the result of the different factors that creates the soil. And so with that, we tend to classify the different types of soils in our planet. with the 12 orders. So we have alphisol, ambisol, aridosol, entisol, gelosol, histosol, incept, inceptosols, mollisols, oxysols, spadosols, ultisols, and vertosols. So I cannot provide you with a description of everything in here, but I will just only name a few. For example, if we talk about alphisols, these are type of soils that are formed under the forest, and there are a lot of vegetation covers on it. And this soil, since there are a lot of vegetation on it, so you can expect of some organic matter below the ground. So this type of soil is very ideal for crop production. So that is called alphisol. And another one is called aridosol. So when we speak of aridosol, that's arid, meaning dry. So that type of soil is found in most deserted areas in the world. So those are the types of soil that can be found in there. When we speak of, for example, here is another type of soil called gelesol. This type of soil is found in regions where there is ice, so the freezing of ice is common in the area. So basically this is located in highly elevated environment. So for example, we have mollisol. For mollisol, these are soils that have a dark colored surface horizon, relatively very high in organic matter. So they are very fertile also. So this kind of soil is very fertile. So there are a lot of soils. Actually, there are a lot of descriptions for the soil, but those are the only few that I can discuss with you. So again, soils, because of the different factors that creates the soil in different environment, especially with the different type of location, the different type of topography, the different types of climate. Our world also creates different classifications of soil, different structure. So that's why we have the soil orders. This is a conceptual summary of the formation of soil, and we will start first with weathering. For weathering, weathering is actually the breaking down of rocks into smaller rocks from parent rocks, and that will be followed by erosion by means of water and wind. The two types of weathering are chemical weathering and physical weathering. Physical weathering creates sand, silt, while chemical weathering creates clay. Clay, silt, and sand is what makes up soil, or what make up soil. And clay will retain water, but plant roots will have difficulty in penetrating clay, while sand will enable plant roots to penetrate into the ground, but will also lose water easily. So that's why a right combination of clay, silt, and sand will make up a loam soil, which is ideal for planting to most of the plants. So soil is actually very dependent on the soil formation factors. And these soil formation factors are the following. We have time, relief, organism, and climate. These factors or soil formation factors will also help us determine the different types of soil orders in the world. So soils, on the other hand, have different layers, and these layers is called soil horizons.